Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. It's 6:50 a.m., June 18th. My name is Amol, and I'm going to do your morning Bitcoin and crypto analysis. Today's analysis is going to be a little bit different. What I'm going to cover is the local time frame of what's going on in Bitcoin, the local price action, and I'm going to show you guys a longer time horizon view of where I think Bitcoin will go in the foreseeable future. Now, it's very hard to predict where the price is going to go for any particular asset, especially something like Bitcoin, which is so volatile, so speculative, and so new and innovative. But we're going to try our best to look at the price action of how the previous history, the present tense, and how the future could be reshaping the price of Bitcoin. So keep an open mind throughout this video. I'm going to have some controversial views. I'm going to have some good views that may go along with your style of thinking. But all in all, I'm going to present to you what I personally think is going to start reshaping the price of Bitcoin over the next several years. So let's get to it. So let's start off with the local time frame analysis, okay? All right. So first things first, I want to do a quick analysis, like always, of what exactly is happening in the price action, and then we can get to the bigger 30,000 foot view picture. So what we've seen so far in the local time frame since the beginning of June is basically after this high that we had, big rejection, we grinded back up over here, or even over here, I re-shorted, okay? And then I told people I really don't think this is going to go up higher because it was such a brutal grind back up. And then we again had a big spill down. And so after that big spill down, again, we grinded, put in a slight lower low, grinded back up again, and now we're starting to roll back over. So I've seen a lot of people talk about this as a potential inverse head and shoulders. And though I do believe that it somewhat looks like it, I guess, maybe you can see, I don't know where you draw the left shoulder from. I guess you could draw it kind of like that. Okay. And this is your right shoulder right there. And the volume, I got to be honest, does match, because typically what you want to see is your left shoulder volume has a good amount of volume coming in. And then your right shoulder volume has lesser volume, but with a lower low right there. Right? So you can see more volume to the sell side right there. That's a low. Then you put in a lower low with lesser volume. So this is kind of like basically a bullish SFP. You can look at it. Okay. And so the grind back up towards the head, and now we're in the formation of the right shoulder. And the formation of the right shoulder, what you typically want to see is volume kind of expanding right here, especially on the breakout past the neckline. If that is possible and we do get the breakout past the neckline, then we have, a measured move, like for example, from the bottom of the head right there to the neckline. We can make the measured move from here. Let's grab that. Let's just say we break out later today or tomorrow. We could say we might break out towards $10,250 or $10,300. Okay, that's if we get that breakout properly. Do I think that's likely? Probably not, but I'm gonna keep an open mind and see what the price action is developing and trying to show us. Okay. Now let's check on the 4 hour, right? So I stated over and over again that on the 4 hour, this is a key area right here where we are. This 9400s area that we've been stuck under. We've been chopping around this for like the last 4 or 5 days. You can see right here how much time we've spent along this area. This area is particularly important because of the June monthly open. The monthly open candles are particularly important because it's where the algos would typically try to defend the price. And so once price breaks through, like it did right here, you can see, again, price tried to gravitate towards that area, break up, got rejected, pushed down. Again, tried to break up past the monthly open, again, broke down. And so where we're struggling right now is basically, again, look how tightly wound the price is right around that June monthly open. So where we are right now is an area where it's a very strong bull bear, either defensive or offensive posture. Whoever wins this battle is probably going to force the price up or down by multiple $100. Where do I think it's going to go? I think it's probably going to roll over, but I'm not going to bet all my chips on that and say we have to roll over, because there are some things that we need to start seeing before that. So if we go on this chart right here, I'd stated before, even yesterday, that at best we were probably going to hit this green descending trend line zone. And that's pretty much what we did. If you look at this wick closely, we pretty much hit that dead on, and then we rolled over. And so now we're again coming towards that area where this is the 4-hour pivot. And again, we can't get up past it. So if you're simply a pivot to pivot trader, you're probably looking at this pivot as broken, and you should then start looking for this S1 right here, which is around 89.50. If that doesn't hold, and let's just say we don't do like maybe like a double bottom, something like this, right? Then I'd probably say we go towards the S2 right here, which is around 85.50. I'm not quite sure if that 85.50 is going to happen with a straight slice down, but I wouldn't be surprised. We've spent so much time in this range right here. Remember, the longer you spend in a particular range like this, the movement up or down is just that big of a magnitude as well, right? In terms of its time spent over here, the violence of the move is just that big to the upside or the downside. Where do I personally think that move is going to break out to? Well, here's something interesting, right? So if we look on the pivot right here, okay, on the daily pivots, we've hit this pivot multiple times now, right? We hit it once right there, twice right there, 3 times bled through it, closed back up above. And so now if we start rolling over again, I'd probably figure that based on the daily, we're probably going to hit the S1, which is around 83.50. Okay? 83.50 would probably be a decent support, but I would probably figure that if we're going to start breaking below 8,500s or so, I don't see why we can't make it to way the heck down here around at least 7,600 or 7,700. This was the previous little consolidation before we made this big move up. So I'm thinking that, okay, if we start breaking down past, let's just say 8,500, 8,600, we should probably at least make it down here. And that would, if you look at this, the VPVR, remember these big high volume nodes, right? So we have this high volume node currently rejecting us. Typically when price goes and rejects one high volume node, it's looking to find support at a different higher volume node, which is way the heck down here, around 88.50. So that's what I'm saying. If this area right here breaks like 8,800 or maybe 8,600 or so, I probably figure we go at least towards this area, which is, you know, the next big high volume node. And it's not even that big, to be honest. The only reason why I could see us bouncing here is, you know, because of this big consolidation, and obviously it would be a pretty decent sized drop way the heck down here. So I could see us bouncing here temporarily, but unless we climb back up again past 9,000 or something, it's very possible that either we do something like this, like that, and then start to roll over again. This is also visible on the GBTC chart, okay? So here's a moving average that you want to pay attention to on the GBTC as well as the CME chart. It's the 34 EMA and the 21 EMA. I'm sure you guys have heard this before, okay? Both the 34 EMA and the 21 EMA, in my experience, especially on the daily chart, has been particularly useful in finding support and resistance, right? So you can see way the heck over here in February 2019, you can see 34 EMAs used as support right there, again, support pushed up. And then once we start to break down and use that area as resistance, as you can see right there. Actually, let me make this a different color so you can see it more clearly. Let's make it purple, right? So you can see the 34 EMA. Once price started to reject that 34 EMA, boom, we rolled over, right? We broke up through the 34 EMA, couldn't hold up above it again, rejected it, and broke down. Once we finally used this area of the 34 EMA as support in January, we pushed all the way up here. Again, rejected right there on March 6th, 34 EMA, big drop down. So guess what we're doing right now? Well, we've already hammered on the 34 EMA multiple times. Not only that, we've kind of created this kind of double top right here, okay? I think the rule of thumb for a double top is typically you need to break past the low between the two tops, and then that's a confirmed double top, right? You need to actually close below this marker, which is around, let me see, let me put a magnet on it actually. Let's see, so it's 9.98. For the conversion from GBTC to Bitcoin spot prices, so 9.98 is approximately about $8,700, okay? And I know that because I've done the calculation, like the percentage difference, okay? So it's right around that, ballpark of 8.5, 8.6-ish. So if we're currently at 10.7, right, for GBTC prices, and let's just say we break past this 34 EMA, whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, I don't know, then we start to see that roll over at least towards that 8.5, 8.6 area. And we break past that, well, guess what? Depending on the GBTC high volume nodes, okay, the next big high volume node is way the heck down here, around 8.9. That puts us about, I think, close to maybe 8,000 flat, $7,900 or so, right? So you could see that it's a very slippery slope once you start breaking down. And below that, right, you have this marker, 7.35, which is closer to like, I think, $6,000 for Bitcoin spot prices. So again, GBTC is already telling you that, hey, it's getting weaker and weaker where we are right now because we keep hammering on this 34 EMA. Another way you could look at the price action of GBTC is simply, actually, let's keep this on and let's turn on the Bollinger Bands here, right? So I told you guys before that a simple technique about Bollinger Bands is, first of all, it helps you identify volatility, okay? Aside from volatility, it helps you understand that once price is above the middle band, like in this upper half right here, it's definitely more bullish. And you should look for retests of the middle band as potential buys for long retracements, right? So this could have been a retracement, a buy opportunity, and you could have sold right at the top of the band. Now guess what's happening here on the middle band? You can see price is rejecting the middle band. Typically, when price breaks below the middle band and it starts rejecting it, you're probably going to go to the bottom half of the band and possibly even accelerate down like this. You can see right here, once price start to break past the middle band and you start rejecting the middle band, you get this kind of spill. Now, it doesn't necessarily always happen in this kind of spill fashion. But again, you can see right here, once you break past the middle band right there, again, test as resistance, big move down. So rarely in any assets do you get, movement past the middle band and then you kind of just hover around and then break back up. It's really just about understanding how the momentum of the Bollinger Bands are showing you that it looks like the long side momentum or the bullish momentum has been broken or has changed or has gotten weaker, and now we need to retrace further. Doesn't mean we need to go all the way down, but at least we might need to go down towards the bottom band or, maybe start pulling back for a couple more days. Okay? So this is my thought process. GBTC is showing you the same thing. And then if we're looking at the CME chart, right? So remember, the Bitcoin CME futures traders, they control a significant amount of the futures volume in Bitcoin. All right? So let's take a look at the 34 EMA right here. Okay, let's turn off that Bollinger Band. Again, right, same thing, pretty useful in terms of the 34 EMA right back here. Support, pushes back up. Again, breaks up through. Once it starts using it as resistance, rolls over, right? Support right there, but once it breaks through, boom, rolls over. Again, same thing, uses as support, support. Once it starts breaking through, uses it as resistance right there, and big spill down. So we're coming to the point in the 34 EMA where it's possible that if we start rolling over past this 34 EMA, it's probably going to be time for Bitcoin to start putting in lower lows. And here's something interesting about Bitcoin when it comes to the local price action. Okay, so if we're looking at this chart right here, let me turn off the pivots. All right, if we're looking at this large chart right here, I mean, we've already got a local downtrend. I've explained this before. You put in this high, you put in this low, you put in this lower high, you put in this lower low. This has already created a bearish structure. So now you have another lower high, right? I mean, technically you had another one right here and then another lower low. So you have 3 different instances that are already showing you that. But let's just say we don't count this one and this one, right? So let's just say that was maybe just, a way of grabbing liquidity from this low. Well, now you still have another lower high. And if you get another contended lower low right here, I mean, you basically set up, a good structure for us potentially spilling down. Okay, I don't really see it any other way. So, another way you can also look at it is, well, take a look at something like this, right? First of all, we know that when it came to this area right here, once we started grinding back up, we did not really see any significant volume right here, right? I mean, you could see the move back up, barely any volume. And you could look this up on any exchange, okay? The real volume get at the top right here. And as I've explained before, getting volumes right at the top, right near resistance, because remember, this is multi-month resistance coming from way the heck in 2019 in October. So once you get the volume right at the top right here, right at the top right here, and just big spikes right like that, this is a key sign of distribution. Another way you can sort of identify this is a fading of the trend in a potential distribution is look at the momentum of how the price has kind of more so moved sideways. Actually, let me draw that a little bit better. It's kind of gone like this, and then it went like that, and then it went like that. Same thing at the top, right? It's done something like this, something like that, and now it's like curving sideways, maybe technically moving down because you have a high, like I said, lower high, lower high. So once you start exiting from this area as this being potential distribution, the move to the downside, like I've said, is just going to be, just as violent because you've spent so much time distributing up here. More than likely, there's not going to be the big buyers left way down here. This is all white space, in my opinion, for the taking of the bears. So it's time to be careful and cautious, okay? Especially if you start breaking through key levels like that $8,800 low. You can even look at the current marker, right? The current marker of Bitcoin. I drew this marker right here of 94.36 because this was the previous base that we had on a daily time frame where all these candles opened and closed above. You can even see this wick closed. This wick right here pierced below, but the candle closed above. This wick pierced below, closed above. Pierced below, closed above. And then finally, we got this big boom of a candle forcefully closing below, grinding, grinding, grinding. Can't really even stay up above this marker on the daily time frame. Once you start rolling over from here, it's, in my opinion, like I said, that 88.50, that's going to come real fast. So now here's my bigger time frame analysis, okay? I personally believe that in the near future, okay, Bitcoin's probably going to experience a bit more of a rocky road when it comes to its bullish price action, okay? And so here's how I'm kind of seeing it. All right, so I'm going to put this on a weekly chart. I'm going to put this one on a weekly chart, okay? And the weekly is important because you get to see the long 10-year view of Bitcoin of how it's been moving. So I've spoken about a couple different ways, right? So first thing is whether you want to look at it, even again, in this sort of local perspective, okay, we have something of a descending parallel channel. Let me actually grab this out. I don't know why that's up there. We have this kind of descending parallel channel right here, okay? After this previous all-time high in 2017, we had this base of a low. By the way, if you look back on my September 2018 videos, I actually stated that from here, we were going to go to 2,500. Obviously, we didn't make it to 2,500, but we made it to 3,100. While everyone was actually bullish over here, I was telling you guys, September 2018, this was probably going to spill over. You can go back on my YouTube videos and go check it out. Okay, so we put in this low. And again, we put in this lower high, right? This is a lower high. And if you're looking at this from an Elliott wave perspective, right, you can, if you're an Elliott wave trader, this could be your big 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we might be in a ABC style correction right now, which is your big A, you had your B, which was the 13,900 high, and you're technically still in the middle of a C. And so the C is probably going to either put in a lower low as per this 3,100 low, or it might be, you know, expanded flat where it's maybe a slightly higher low than this A. Do I think it's going to be a slightly higher low? Probably not. I probably think that we're going to pierce lower than this key low and this key low because there's probably a lot of liquidity trap below this area and below this area. Another reason why I feel like we're going to go through this scenario right here is because I've stated after this high, this lower high, lower high, lower high, another lower high that we're seeing right now. And again, I could be totally wrong if we start moving up through this today, tomorrow, or next week, whenever. But as long as we stay under this marker right here, this is definitely a structurally lower high. So that means that if we put in a lower high, this was a higher low as per this swing, but then we put in another lower high and done lower low as per this swing. So that means we've definitely changed structure right here. So based on this key higher low, we actually took liquidity way the heck down here, all this stuff, yet we could not even break past 10,500, which is the key resistance. So that means even the liquidity that we took way the heck down here, we still don't have enough demand strength to break up past this supply strength. So then what do? Well, we got to head down probably lower and lower, where we push out maybe more buyers and more sellers out of the market. We take more liquidity down here, and then maybe over the next year or 2 years, then we start breaking out and pushing up from here. Okay, so that's my thought process. I'm still thinking that we're going to make another move down, whether it's, you know, next week, next month, maybe in the next month or two, but I think that's going to happen. Now, I am totally wrong if this does break up through this. Okay, until then, I don't quite see that happening. Okay, it's also possible that you can make an argument for something like this, which is your left shoulder, your head, and maybe your inverse head and shoulders pattern. Now, the reason why I don't give that much credit is because there's really not a whole lot of buyers in this area, right? Like, there's no real consolidation to probably defend the price way the heck in the middle, just randomly. It's possible, yeah, and I'm gonna probably keep that as a scenario I'm watching out for, but it's probably unlikely because I'd figure that after this large movement down, you probably just rip up through this. But the fact that you haven't probably means that you may need to go a little bit lower, maybe towards this $2,400 area, maybe towards 1,300, and then start moving out. Okay, so this is my thought process, you know, on the next few months. Now, I truly think that Bitcoin is one of the more innovative assets, and it's done something great that no other innovation really has. It's kind of given people this sort of revolutionary hope of a new financial system, of controlling their own money, not really relying on banks, because technically you're your own bank, especially if you have your own node. And so that is truly unique to Bitcoin and its feature, and it's a totally fungible asset. You can't seize it, you can't confiscate it. There's so many features of Bitcoin that truly make it amazing. That doesn't mean that just because it has these features and specs that it should be valued higher just based on that. Value like that doesn't come just based on how great the product is. It's about the adoption and the exchange at which two people are willing to agree upon a price. And if two people are not willing to agree upon a price at, let's just say 9,500 or 7,000 or 6,000 or 5,000, it's going to go lower and lower until someone says, someone or many people say, hey, it's going to be valued a lot higher than this in terms of its utility. And then the price just doesn't go lower. But then someone on the way back up also needs to say, oh, I think Bitcoin is going to be valued higher than 4,000, higher than 5,000, higher than 6,000. That's how you get the price moving up. Other than that, there's really no reason why price should be valued at 9,400. Right now, we could just make a simple argument that yes, at present moment, two buyers and sellers are coming to an agreement that price is valued where it is. Okay, this is the good agreed upon intrinsic value. But if it starts spilling over and no one keeps buying and buying what the sellers are selling and selling, that means it's just going to keep going lower and lower until supply is exhausted, until there's enough buyers in the market who say, all right, I'm going to put a stop to all this. I'm going to, make sure that Bitcoin doesn't go below 2,500 or 3,000. Okay. So now if that happens, right, then we could see a big transition, from Bitcoin, potentially, let's just say if we took a fractal like we have this one right here, oops, let's just say, from this base to this previous all-time high. And let's just say we come back towards that base again, right, in, October 2020. Well, that movement back up, okay, takes us to about 150,000 or so if we kind of made, this movement. Again, I don't quite believe in fractals like this, but it's important to understand that Bitcoin has done this previously. It has had parabolic movements like this multiple times in its history. So at the very least, let's just say, even if we don't make it to 150,000, I don't see why we can't make it to at least 37, 40,000, which is double the previous all-time high price. Okay, so those are my thoughts when it comes to Bitcoin potentially making its trajectory over the next few years, this kind of movement. Alternatively, it could just come down here around $1,000 or $2,000. And to be honest, it might range for like a year or 2 years. I don't know if it's going to do that, but remember that it is possible. Many assets have done that. Microsoft was in a sideways trading range for like 5 years or something. And that was an amazing company, right? So you can see right here, or was it? I think it was this area right here. No, I'm sorry. Oh, here's Microsoft, right? Way down here from 2000 till it broke its previous all-time high way over here, 2017. It moved sideways. You could see 17 years. That's a lot of sideways movement. Of course, in this, you probably thought, oh, it's going to move up. Whoops, it comes down again. Oh, it's going to move up. Whoops, it comes down again. And then it finally breaks out 17 years later. Many assets like this, especially if you really think that there's going to be some greatness coming out of it, sometimes it takes a long time. Here's gold, right? Gold went from this kilo, moved sideways, broke towards its previous high right there 6 years later. Okay? This is either a reaccumulation process or it's just buyers and sellers trying to figure out what the heck is this asset? Is it going to be worth higher in the next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? And sometimes it just trades in a range because no one can really figure out what the hell is the use of this. Same thing with Microsoft. No one really thought Microsoft was going to be all that great until it really started to break out, start to push its innovative products. And then 17 years later, it really broke out and just ripped through to all-time highs. So don't think that Bitcoin won't do that, because remember, when it comes to phases of Bitcoin, we're going through this S-curve adoption of how technologies are adopted. okay? And by the looks of what I can see, to be honest, we're coming very close to the tippy top of the adoption. Now, I know everyone says that, oh, you know, only 1% of the world has Bitcoin. Yeah, that's scary. 10 years later, only less than, well, I think it's less than 1% of the world even has Bitcoin or knows about Bitcoin. That's very scary because in 10 years, you haven't really done a whole lot. And yet your price has completely expanded and accelerated. So it's possible that price comes down and then more people hear about it at lower prices. Okay? More people hear about it as price comes down, and then you see more development, more usage, more adoption in the asset itself. And then maybe a year, 2 years, 5 years later, then you start seeing the price match its true adoption rate. So these are the things that, you know, you want to pay attention to when it comes to things like Bitcoin. Don't just get too caught up in the noise of where we are right now and that we have to break out. We don't have to do anything. It could range for, you know, a few months or a few years. Okay? So I'm still thinking that we're going through something like this. Okay? I'm still thinking that we're going to, you know, come down and do something like this right here. Okay? But I also give Bitcoin some opportunities, some chances based on its previous history of doing something like this over the next few years. So I'm not totally bearish, but I'm not bullish in the same time frame that most people are seeing this asset. It's understanding hype cycles, bubbles. This is something that most people don't understand because as people are looking here, their minds are still trapped back here in 2017 or 2019 of how fast Bitcoin accelerates up. They're not thinking that how fast it can move down or how it can bore you to death over the next few months or few years. So this is where I think the real trap is. Trapping a lot of buyers, boring them to death down here. You have to be able to pay attention to what could be the biggest traps in a particular asset or what could be its true intrinsic value based on its rate of adoption and how many people are using it and what are the emerging technologies that are coming out to potentially either devalue Bitcoin or displace Bitcoin, or how is the world changing it and can Bitcoin adapt to it? And so far, Bitcoin has technically been the same. It's been the same product for the last 10 years. You know, there's really been no true innovations. At least, you know, in my experience, and I talk to a lot of people in the Bitcoin space. So I think it's, you know, high time that Bitcoin starts actually going out into the world and doing something, making big progress in terms of its adoption, in terms of its usage and utility. Until then, I don't see why the price cannot be marked down lower. Okay? All right, folks. Hope you guys enjoy that content. Thank you so much for watching. Again, hit the thumbs up if you do. Until then, catch y'all later. Cheers.